Life Podcast, episode number 3 with Jenai Lane, brought to you by One Life Fully Lived, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping you learn how to dream, plan, and live your best life. Let's begin today's show. Welcome everybody to the One Life Podcast, where we interview all of the amazing thought leaders and entrepreneurs in our One Life community and surrounding industries. Today we have an amazing guest, Jenai Lane, who is got some amazing things to share with our community today about mindfulness and some of the great teachings that she is sharing with clients and the world in general. And help me welcome Jenai Lane. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here and so pleased to talk with you, Matt, and to share some wonderful things with your audience that I think people can put to work right away in their lives.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for taking the time. Our community is extremely grateful for it. And you're a very, very powerful woman in the sense of the value that you bring to so many people's lives. And for a lot of people that attended our One Life Fully Lived conference, West Coast in Sacramento, you were one of our main keynotes and one of my favorite speakers. I took away just a full journal of notes on some of the things that you were sharing. But before we dive into that, I'd like to know, in your own words, how would you describe yourself?
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to. Well, to give you a little bit of history, I think it's important because, I kind of I did my life the way I thought I was supposed to. I wanted to be successful, so I built a company and I sort of climbed the mountain you were supposed to climb, and I made money and I got recognition and I won awards, and all these things happened which, from the outside looked really good, but inside, for some reason, I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel fulfilled, and I didn't understand why, because I thought I was doing it right. And it was really when I started to question that, what is it that really makes my heart sing? What's going to really fulfill me on a heart and soul level? And what I discovered was I was really sort of letting my ego mind lead me in this life adventure that we're in. And I realized it's not going to be my highest and best life unless I can tune into my spirit, which is, we call that different names, but it's really that authentic part of ourselves, our true self that knows why we're here and what we came to contribute to this world. And unless we're willing to really look within and tap into that place, we're not going to know. And that's what happened to me. I really didn't know, even though it kind of looked good from the outside, and I was kind of miserable inside. And so I went on my own personal path of discovery to try to determine, what is it? Who am I? What makes me tick? And as I kind of uncovered this, I wanted to share it with others because I kept meeting people that were in a similar position, whether they were successful in the outer world or not successful. It didn't matter. They were just kind of unhappy within. And so what I'm sharing with others today is really all the tools and practices and techniques that I use with myself and with hundreds and hundreds of people at this point that are non-dogmatic, practical ways into spirit, which is our highest, wisest part of ourselves. And everybody knows because we've all touched it. And so that's my journey in a nutshell, and what I feel I'm here to do on this planet, to really help people live inspired, spirit-led lives. And all of a sudden, you're in this level of deep fulfillment. And it's not hard to do, but it is a paradigm shift. We have to start sort of moving into another way of looking at ourselves and the world around us.
I love it. And you've become, on this journey, a really highly sought after, intuitive coach and trainer, kind of in this, spiritual and mindfulness space. But, looking back and hearing more about your journey, I mean, you're an award-winning entrepreneur, you're a former CEO of a consumer products company, you've created patents and trademarks, and you've done, such a broad spectrum of things in the business world, and yet you are so intently focused on the internal. And I'm just curious, how did you originally discover kind of how to access this vision, or why you even wanted to, go down this path of self-discovery?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I think, when you're curious and when you're ready, that's what starts to happen as we start asking questions. And the original question that I asked myself was, I noticed something. When I had my first business, I noticed that my best ideas, my best visions came in two very, very odd places. And one was when I was sleeping, like in my dreams, or when I was just waking or just falling asleep. And all of a sudden I'd have this download of this amazing product. It just came in, dropped right in. And I would actually sleep with a notepad next to my bed, and I jot it down. And the other place that it would come in was in the shower. So sometimes I'd be in the shower, and all of a sudden, I'd have this great sort of inspiration. And I started asking myself, okay, wait a minute. What's going on here? Why is this happening? What am I tapping into here? And why can't I do it more often? Why is it just spontaneously happening in these random places? And what I realized was the common denominator between those two things those were the only two places where my mind was actually off. So my mind was off when I was sleeping, and my mind was off in the shower. For the most part, I was relaxed, I was letting go. And then all of a sudden, I became this vehicle to receive. Now, we've all had this. We've all had these experiences. They seem very spontaneous or random, where, we get an idea, and sometimes we act on those things, and most of the time we don't. But a lot of times we get this idea, and then we'll be out in the world and we'll see it. We'll say, I had that idea, and someone else manifested it. And, many of the great visionaries of our time, the people we admire, like Leonardo da Vinci and Einstein and Gandhi, these people all understood this principle. They understood that your vision, your inspiration is not in your mind. The mind's a tool, but we have to actually step out of the mind to receive that greatness. And so that's what happened to me. And I started asking questions, and then I started saying, well, wait a minute, how can I do this more often? And then I started learning about other people that I admired, like some of the ones I mentioned, like Einstein. He wrote the theory of relativity with very little footnotes. I mean, where did that come from? Einstein talked about that he was tapping into something greater. As many great visionaries will acknowledge that truth. So to me, that always was interesting to me. What makes someone a great artist or a great musician, or whatever your field is, an entrepreneur? What makes someone really, truly great? And those people that historically that we tend to really revere, they understood. Many of them could articulate this principle. For example, Thomas Edison. I love the story about Thomas Edison because, he had over 1,000 patents, right? He invented the light bulb and many, many inventions. And when he was stuck, when he got stuck, what he would do is, the story is anyway, that he would go to sleep with a rock in his hand, because he knew there was that sweet spot between sleeping and waking where he was not in no mind, no thought, where his ideas would pop in. And then when the rock dropped, he would awaken, but he'd still be in that sweet spot space. Now, that's all well and good, and I don't teach people to sleep with a rock in their hand, because I think, and I know, because I've been using these tools that I teach for many, many years, that you can apply these very, very simple tools to bring yourself out of your mind and into that alignment with your spirit, with that highest, wisest part of you. And that's what I help people do. And it's not just our vision that we access, like our gifts, our contribution, because that's all wonderful and we absolutely want to do that, but it's our true self. You see, without really knowing ourselves, how are we going to know what we love? How are we going to know who to be in relationship with? How are we going to know what things are just going to make us feel so good and so wonderful? How are we going to know all the things and all the lessons and all the adventures we're here to have? So many of us live from this other part. Of course, we're all trained that way. It's part of the human experience. It's not a problem. We're trained to really, be in our minds all the time and run our life from our ego. And that is problematic because it will not lead us to our highest life path.
So, you touched on some really important and honestly trending topics that I've heard so many people in this personal growth space really being more attentive to, and I want to touch on a few of them with you and actually get your personal opinion on when you say visionary, because that's a very, I don't want to say it's a cliched term, but it's kind of become cliched because so many people use it that probably aren't true visionaries. So when you kind of look at the visionaries that you referenced and that you've learned from, how do you define what a visionary really means or embodies?
Yeah, that's a great question. Here's the thing that I've discovered. We're all visionaries. We all have a vision. And this is one of the things I've found with working with thousands of people over these many years, that we all come here, incarnate, with a plan, with gifts, with a specific way to contribute to the world. It doesn't matter if it's very small or very big. We all matter, every single one of us. And we all have a vision. And whatever that vision is, it could be a small vision, like it could be building a sustainable garden in your community. And that's, because your heart is pulling you towards that. You love it, you don't know why, and you need to do it. And you start to do it, and then it begins to be this like flame that ignites in other people around you. And the thing is, and this is what I say, and I really, truly, it's been my own experience, that I believe that we all are visionaries, that there is no one who isn't. And that when we bring our vision to fruition, it's the exact actualization of our purpose, of our true purpose, of our reason for being here. And in that, we are contributing to the greater whole of the world. And so, in fact, sometimes people say, oh, my vision doesn't matter, it's not a very big one, or it doesn't. It does matter, because you're part of the whole. And if all of us have the courage to give our vision, what happens is we're creating a better world. It's the natural extension. So we think our vision's very personal to us, but in fact it isn't. It's part of the collective. When we start to give it, we realize that we're contributing to the greater whole of the world. And every true vision serves in some way. It will serve the greater good. It will serve the whole. So even all the people that I mentioned, Einstein, Thomas Edison, Leonardo da Vinci, Gandhi, they serve the greater good. Of course, these are all big, big visions, and so it's easy to look to them. But the smallest vision matters. It matters to the world. And sometimes, I'll say to people, okay, well, if you're feeling scared and you're not feeling courageous about your vision, then just get your small self out of the way and think about the people it will serve by you stepping out there, right? So if you want to sing, and you have a gift to sing and you know it, but you have fear around it, and then you just decide, I'm going to take a class and I'm going to practice, and then someone invites you to a party and they say, could you sing? And you sing, and your voice starts to move people in the room, and then that leads to the next thing and the next thing, and that's how we begin to actualize our vision. In fact, we're all visionaries. It's the nature of spirit, and we're all spirit. So I would say our vision is our actualization of our higher self, or our spirit in the world taking form.
That's great. Yeah, and I think about all of the talented people and visionaries over the course of history, if they weren't able to tap into that and didn't have the willingness to share that, then, what would this world look like? And so when we think about, a lot of people either are inspired by their ego, or their ego really deters them from achieving, and sharing their vision. So why is it important to, be out of your mind to access your greatness, and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, good question. The ego is really the false self, right? And it's the part of us that tends to be very critical. It's like it says, no, you can't do that. You couldn't possibly do that vision. You're not going to achieve that.
That inner critic.
Or you're not, that inner critic. You're not good enough. You're not, it's a story. Everybody has it. Everybody has an ego. So we all have this. We all know, we all relate to it. And we can't let that stop us. It's not a problem in and of itself. It's a problem if we live there most of the time. So there's a part of us that can learn to sort of watch the ego and what it does and laugh at it, because it's really our false self. It's not who we are. And so learning tools and practices to kind of get out of that state of consciousness, which is a very limited state of consciousness. So even when the ego's going, yeah, you're awesome, you can do that, you're better than anyone else, because it sometimes does that, the other side of the coin is you suck, you're not going to be able to do it, you're going to fail. And if you talk to anyone who's been successful at anything, they will tell you that they had to move through those voices in their own head. Everybody does, because we all have an ego. It's just part of the nature of ego mind. But that said, we can learn to quiet it. We can give it a constructive place to go. We can get it on board with us so that it's not an enemy anymore. It becomes more of an ally. It's not that we want to eradicate it or cut it out, because we can't. We absolutely can't.
Right.
But what happens is, as we become more identified with our true self, with spirit, the more we identify, the less that has power over us. The less and less, because we know more and more who we really are. And that voice of ego, although it still may be there, it gets quieter and quieter and softer. So for most people, it's the opposite. For most people, it's the voice of spirit. It's very, very quiet, that we can't hear. Because why? Our thoughts are so loud in our head. They're just all the time, right? Like, are you present right now? Are you listening to my voice right now in this moment? Or are you thinking about, what am I going to do when this is over? When this call's over? Are you really here in this moment? And so our thoughts, and it's okay, this isn't something to beat yourself up about, it's just something to notice and observe and say, oh, this is getting in my way of accessing my spirit, and that small subtle voice that knows exactly why I'm here and exactly what my gifts are and what I have to contribute and what my next step is. What is my next step right now in this moment?
Right.
You absolutely know. So how do we do that? Well, that's a really good question. And the way that I've learned to do that is to use and apply tools that help to exit the mind. So let's just experiment. You want to try it with me, Matt?
I would love to.
Okay. So this is just a really simple tool. We can do it in under a minute or less. And this is just a tool. It's called quieting the mind. That's all it is. We're quieting it, because then we can start to hear the voice of spirit, which is our intuition. So just close your eyes, and I want you to imagine in the center of your head is a little gold ball of light about the size of a quarter. And you're just putting your focus on this beautiful golden radiant ball of light, very small, about the size of a quarter. And notice how very slowly it's beginning to grow. So you're focusing on this golden, warm, glowing, healing light, and it's growing. It's getting a little bigger, about the size of a golf ball. And you're just focusing on this radiant healing light. Now it's getting even larger, perhaps the size of a softball. And it's just filling your brain with this radiant healing light. And notice now how it's expanding even bigger. It's starting to fill your entire head with these golden rays of light. Very calming, very peaceful. And now it's getting bigger. It's growing even beyond your physical head. So this radiant light is filling, it's flowing through your neural pathways, and it's just allowing your head, your mind to be filled with light, pure light. And you just allow the energy to be there. I want you to take a moment and just notice how you feel. Notice if you have any physical sensations. What are you noticing, Matt, as you just did that?
For me, I kind of felt a sense of clarity.
Yeah.
I felt a sense of love and connection. The actual physical sensations, I almost felt a little bit light on my feet. I'm standing right now, and I almost was kind of losing myself in that moment of the energy and almost kind of losing my balance. I kind of had to check myself for a moment. And the physical sensations of almost like a tingliness kind of going through my body as well. It definitely was, for me, a little bit of an out-of-body experience, being into that space of a completely different energy than what I focus on or consciously put my energy or attention in.
Yes, that's a perfect way to describe it. You had an out-of-body experience, which is kind of like an out-of-mind experience. We spend so much time in our mind that when we have these experiences, like, whoa, it's out of body, but we're really connecting to our spirit, that energy. And, like you said, all of a sudden the qualities that emerged just from that simple thing that was under a minute was clarity, love, and you said losing yourself. And I would say you lost your little self. That's what you lost, the ego, Matt. And you gained your higher self. And that's that lightness that you felt. And when you operate from that place in the world, you start to have a really different experience in the world. It's almost like, the analogy I use is, when you're in the airport and you're on those moving sidewalks, it kind of feels like that. You're light on your feet, you're carried, you're a co-creator, you're in the flow. And we've all had those moments, but wouldn't it be wonderful if we could consciously co-create more of those moments? And we can. We absolutely can.
And, you've kind of, well, first and foremost, thank you. That was great. I love that. And when I kind of removed a little bit of my ego and said, okay, we're doing this in the interview, I'm going to plug in and play full out with Jenai and be present in this moment and see what I can learn from her. That was a really cool experience to share with you. So thank you first and foremost. And now my next question that it leads me to is how much I enjoyed that, and by really engaging with that experience, how can I get more of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I offer to people is I wrote a book. It's called Spirit-Led Instead, the little tool book of limitless transformation, and it's full of tools like this. It's really simple. It's really easy. You can read it and start applying it in your life today. It's one of those things. But I just want to preface it with this. Reading about something does not transform you. It's applying what you read that transforms you. Right? So we've all done it, So that's one way, and applying it, and another way is, I take people through the tools in the book in my online course, A Spirit-Led Life, and teach people how to create that. And I want to just offer to people that I have a free sample of this course with a webinar that people can just download the meditation and start practicing right away. You don't have to wait or sign up or do anything. You can just check it out for yourself, because here's the thing about spirit and being spirit-led that's really important, and I really want to emphasize that. You know your path. You know what resonates for you. So if you're listening to this call and you're going, yeah, this really resonates for me, then move towards it. But there might be something else that really resonates for you. So your spirit knows, and it will move you towards those experiences and opportunities if you allow it to. You know, you follow those little nudges of the heart that says, oh, that would be neat. That would be really, I like that. Ooh, that feels resonant to me. You know, we can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure we include your link to some of the free tools that you're offering, because they're extremely valuable, and I want to make sure that the One Life community gets those. So we'll have those in the show notes. But you just kind of brought up something for me that I think a lot of people can relate to or experienced is, you know, you kind of get that gut check where, you know, your spirit or some kind of feeling in your body tells you like, ooh, I should kind of explore this a little bit more. But then the ego or some kind of fear kicks in and almost convinces us maybe why we shouldn't or why we should move away from it. So how can we walk through that fear and pursue that vision or passion or idea that is somewhat, you know, being elevated within?
Yes. Yeah, great question. And, you know, that's exactly what happens, Matt, just how you articulated it. We will get the nudge from spirit, and almost immediately the ego mind comes in and says, oh, no, you can, or, oh, I don't know, I'm not going to be a woo-woo person and do this stuff, or, right. That's too much money, or I don't have enough time, or, right? That's what the ego does. And yeah, how do we walk through that? Because that will absolutely interrupt us living our highest path. And so one of the things that I do, this is another tool, I use it all the time, and it's really simple. You don't need anything to use it. You just close your eyes. And what you do is, when those thoughts start arising, okay, what you do is you imagine right in front of you is a big giant open rose. And it's just open. It's just there, receiving. It's endless. It's big. It can carry or hold absolutely anything. And what you do is you start putting those thoughts and feelings right in the rose. So, for example, Matt, if you were going to put some of those thoughts and feelings in the rose that you're familiar with, that come up for you when, you're like, ooh, you're going to take that leap of faith or maybe move towards something that is a little out of your comfort zone. What kinds of things come up for you?
For me, it's maybe self-consciousness. Am I going to be, received or perceived in the way I feel I might need to be in that moment or environment or space?
Exactly. Yeah. So you put that in the rose. So you just imagine those thoughts, those feelings of self-consciousness are going in the rose. How am I going to perceived go in the rose? Anything to do with the situation goes in the rose. Anything that's coming up goes in the rose. For example, fear, that fear lives in our energy field. We want to excavate it. This is what we're doing in the process. So that fear goes in the rose. Now, here's the thing about thoughts or feelings, and this is what they've said. They said when we have a thought or feeling, we will have a similar or the same one within 17 seconds. So if we've got these things hanging out, they accumulate and get stronger and louder. So we want to constructively release them. So you imagine all that going into the rose. Anything else you need to put in that rose, Matt?
Maybe just, it goes back to self-consciousness, self-doubt.
Yes, absolutely. Put that in the rose. Just imagine, I'm putting all my self-consciousness in the rose. I'm putting all my self-doubt in the rose. That's right. I'm just putting all that story I tell myself in the rose. Any anxiety in the rose.
Definitely.
Yeah, get rid of that. And just, if there's anywhere I'm not believing in myself, I'm going to put that in the rose too. Anywhere I'm not believing in myself. Let that go. Any I can't thoughts out of there. Now, here's the last step, which is kind of important. The last step is, what I do is I intend that anything that's left lights up in my energy field as red. So let's try it. So let's just see. anything that's left, these are thoughts or feelings, they're just energy, because everything's energy, is going to light up in your body as red. 1, 2, 3. Now you might see it, notice it, feel it. Where do you notice any red coagulating in your body?
For me, it was my eyes.
Yeah. And interesting, your eyes, so there it is, blocking your vision, maybe blocking your next step, or seeing it, maybe it's right in front of you, but you can't see it, right? Because the energy is blocking it. So see all that red energy going into the rose. It's like the rose has suction, just pulling it all out, every last drop of red. And this is energy we're just unconscious of at this moment, which is okay. Well, many of us are unconscious about energy in our field, and that's not a problem, but we can still remove it. Good. Now at the count of 3, we're going to just explode that rose into pure love and light. We're just transmuting the energy. 1, 2, 3. We let it go. That's it. And just kind of notice, just take a moment and notice, how do you feel? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel clearer?
Yeah, I do. I mean, for me it was kind of like a mist, kind of just thrown over my body. That was almost refreshing to see that dissipate right in front of me.
Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah, I love that metaphor, a mist. You're just like, it's like splashing cold water on your face, which is sometimes what we do when we get really stressed out. We go in the bathroom and we splash. And the reason we're so stressed out is we've got all this energy that's been floating around in our field, and it's accumulating and it's building on itself. And so this is a way in the moment to just release it. It's such a simple thing, but we need to do it. We take a shower every day, right? We take a shower, and if we don't, we tend to feel kind of grimy. And if we don't take a shower on the next day and the next day, we're feeling really kind of yucky and gross, right? I mean, we've all gone camping. We know that feeling. And yet we don't take a spiritual shower. We don't take a shower where we're willing to let go of the past and the thoughts and feelings that don't serve us. And we have to be willing to do that. And then we feel fresh and clean and clear to really live our highest and best life, right? So some of the practices that I teach, and I have a free guided meditation that's a 5-minute, really it's like a spiritual shower. And I recommend people do that every day. It's on my website, spiritcoachtraining.com. And you can just download it for free and put it on your phone or whatever and just listen to it. And then you can start doing it on your own. But it's just a way to clean off, to clean out. That this is really important when we want to actualize our vision, to be able to get rid of the stuff that isn't serving us on a day-to-day basis. And usually we don't realize it until we're all messed up. You know what I mean? We're like, oh my God, I need some
until
help.
It's too late, and you're like, okay, now how do I undo all of this?
Yeah. And it's never too late. We can always undo it. But, it's so great to use this on a daily basis, because then we're doing preventative. It's like, going to the gym or something like that. We're creating an environment for us to be really tapped in to source, to co-creation, to our vision, to creativity, to inspiration, to clarity, to all these qualities that are actually really innate in all of us. They're not in some of us, they're in all of us. And all we have to do is create the environment for that to be so, because it already is.
I love it.
It's already there.
So let me switch gears a little bit on you. What are you most excited about this year? What are some of the things that you are creating and furthering in your own professional or personal path?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'm really, really excited about is, I guess it was a couple of years ago, I started taking my work into an online forum where I can reach out a really broad audience, like people all over the world. I have people from different countries that come and do these online courses with me. I do them live. And it's such a great way to work with an inspired group of people, a whole community. Because sometimes when we're doing this work, we can feel kind of isolated or alone in it. But people are coming together from all over the world, and we're supporting one another in living a spirit-led life. And it's very exciting to see the energy that builds when we come together and support each other in doing that. And what happens, it's like wildfire, how our lives just take off. And I'm so excited that I'm able to reach people in places I couldn't reach them before. Because I also do, retreats and things like that where people can come. But sometimes you're on the other side of the planet, and you can't fly out to wherever I'm holding the retreat, so you can really connect in that way. And so to me, that's very exciting.
That's the beauty of kind of the online world and just the connectivity that social media and all these different mediums allow us to have much greater impact and reach, especially for what you're doing that is truly serving and just making such a significant impact in so many people's lives. I commend you for that, and that's really exciting. I'm actually very intrigued to see how many people in our One Life community, being that I've talked to so many who desire this, and I'm sure you did at the last event, listen to and engage with some of the new and exciting stuff that you have going on this year.
Yeah. And I just came out with my second book, which is it's called the Spirit Led Instead Playbook, and it's kind of like this journal. It's, you could throw it in your bag and carry it with you, and it's a way to really engage in the practices in a day-to-day way, which is, it's really handy to have something where you can write in and read all at the same time and keep it all in one place. And I find that really helpful, and I've done that for years, so I finally created something for others to really support them on their path. So I'm excited about that release. That's
great. And how, as yourself, someone who is constantly and consciously moving through your day-to-day, what channels, mediums, resources, platforms, communities are you plugging into to kind of further your expertise or to continue leveling up your own life?
Yeah, I do a lot of spiritual pilgrimage. I spend time going to sacred sites all over the world, and I go there and I meditate, and I learn from other highly evolved beings or teachers on the planet. For example, for the last 10 years, I've gone to Brazil. I actually bring people as well, but I'm a medium there, and I sit for like 2 weeks at a time just channeling the light. So in that time, I'm filling up, I'm clearing out. I think it's very important that when we're doing this work that we also take the time to receive, because our receiving and giving are the same thing, really, and we want to be able to open up our levels of receptivity, because then we could give even more. And I've really found that and discovered that. One of my favorite places that I also take people on retreat to is Sedona in Arizona, because it has a very high vibration there. In fact, David Hawkins of Power versus Force acclaim, he calibrated Sedona as one of the highest vibrations on the planet, which is interesting because I've been going there since I was a little kid, and so I take people there to actually sit out in the high desert and receive the energy and really connect to spirit, because it's very clear there. You can really get a direct channel to your own truth.
So what are some of the things that you guys are doing in your retreats, to give someone kind of a quick synopsis of a peek into Jenai's coaching and training in one of these retreat settings? What transformation are you taking people through?
Yeah. So this is really about awakening our divine self or spirit, that part of us that is innate in us. So what we do is we'll go out into the desert and we'll sit in circle, and we'll do different meditations and different exercises. We'll do sort of practices that help us release the parts of us that are the false self, the ego identity. We'll do healing. We'll bring in healing energy, which everybody has access to. I've had people have physical miracle healings at some of these retreats, meaning they have a long-standing issue that suddenly gets healed. And I'm not the healer. I call myself the door, not the doer. And so I help people to open the door to their own miracles, to their own healing, to their own truth and wisdom. We have time where people can really download their visions at the retreat. So they'll receive information and messages, and then we share those. It's very exciting and uplifting. And people tend to come away with, they're like, yes, okay, I know my path, I know my next step, I know I'm tapped in and I'm on the path, and I'm going to follow the next step, and then the next, and then the next. So it's a process that changes every time I do a retreat, because what happens is I'm given the curriculum when the group comes together. I don't know ahead of time, which is really wonderful. It's coming from Spirit. And it's always the perfect thing for that group. So there's a lot of interaction with each other. And, there's this wonderful thing that happens. And I know those of us at One Life experienced it too, because we're coming together with a common intention. And when people come together, the energy is amplified exponentially every time. Right. So that's why it's really powerful to work in groups like that.
And what kind of people are coming to your retreats?
Yeah, a lot of different people. I tend to attract a lot of entrepreneurs, because that's my background. So a lot of people who have their own businesses, and I attract a lot of people who are questioning, success. Maybe they've had some success, but they're not fulfilled. And I attract a lot of people who are, they're really questioning. They're asking the questions like, who am I? Why am I here? And they're wanting to know. They're really wanting to know the answers to these things. And so it's a real mix of people, but I'll tell you what, it is a phenomenal group of people, because these are all people that are willing to be real. They're willing to be authentic. And it feels a little scary at first, but once we're together, all those facades drop and you see the beauty and light that's there. So it's just an amazing, and I have to say, many years ago, I can remember going to my first spiritual retreat. Here I was, a businesswoman, and I remember looking around. There's probably about 25 people, and going, who are these people? And my little ego mind was kind of judging. I'm like, why am I here, and why am I with these people? And I have to say, by the end of that week, I was in love with everybody there. It's kind of like how we feel at One Life. We just connect on this deep, real level, because people are willing to drop the facades of the ego and be real with each other and show each other their light. And really, at the essence of all of us is love. That's what we are. All of us, every single one of us. Some of us, aren't showing it as much, but that's what happens when you walk away. You kind of fall in love with yourself and in love with people, strangers, and I mean that in not a romantic way. I mean that you're seeing the spirit in them. There's a term we all say in yoga, many of us are familiar with, namaste. Namaste. And it means the divine in me sees the divine in you. And it's so fun to live life like that, to be spirit-led. That's how we're living. We're seeing it in each other. And when we do, we create a really beautiful world.
I love it. Well, you have just brought so much light to this conversation. It's been fun. I could honestly talk to you for a few more hours, so we might have to have you on for round 2 at some point this year. We're heading into the One Life lightning round, where we kind of do some wrap-up questions, just to really put an exclamation point on this interview. And I'm curious to know, what's one characteristic that you believe every person should possess? And I think I might know the answer to this, but I want to hear it directly from you.
Well, I think I just stated it, actually, right? Which is love.
Yep.
And I really believe that love is the core of our essence. It's the core of everyone. It's divine love. It's not a relational love like we think of it. It is what created the whole universe. It's love, and we are part of that. That is who we are at our essence. And when we tap into it, we know it because it feels so good. And that's what fuels everything else. So the more and more we connect to that, the more we feel the world is a loving place, the more we can actualize that, the more we can allow that love that is inherent in us to come out. And it makes us less judgmental. It makes us more compassionate, more peaceful, more calm, more inspired. All these qualities that are an aspect of that innate love that is within us all. And it is in everyone, every single one of us. And here's the thing, when we look for it, it comes out more. That's what we focus on expands. And I know that's a cliche in the self-help, but when we focus on love and coming from love, we will find more love in our life.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Okay, wrap-up question for you. At the end of Jenai's life, what is it that you want to be remembered for?
Beautiful. Yeah, I take people through this in my retreats. I have this exercise where I actually have people lay on the floor and it's their deathbed. They pretend that they're on their deathbed, and they're partnered with someone, and they have to say, what gave their life meaning, because I think it's so important to reflect on, because then you can live that right now. You don't have to get to that point. You can realize, wow, I can live that right now. And for me, it's the actualization of my purpose, which is to awaken the divine, to awaken divine potential in myself and others. That's my purpose in this incarnation. So living that, embodying that in myself, and then helping others to do that. And again, it's a whole lifetime. I haven't arrived. One of the things I've discovered on my own spiritual path is you don't arrive somewhere and you're done.
Right.
It's an evolution. You continually evolve, and to me, that's the exciting part of life. It's like, oh, I thought I had actualized my divine potential. Wow, now look where I am. Holy cow. And it's never ending, and that's the beauty of it. So that, after I cross over and leave my body, because the body's just the car we're driving, it's not who we are. My spirit will go on, but when I leave my body, I'll say, yeah, I came and learned and did what I said I was going to do before I incarnated, and I impacted many, many people along the way. And I will also continue that journey, wherever I go next after I leave my body, because it is a continuum. Our spirit is infinite. It never dies. Our body dies, but our spirit doesn't.
Well, I can say, Jenai, that you continue to impress me every time I hang around you and brighten up my world as not only a coach and a mentor, but just an amazing human being. So I want to thank you for taking the time to just be the authentic you and share your strengths and skills and insight and knowledge with our community. And I wish we had more time, because there's so much we could dive into all the different branches of this beautiful tree that you've really explored and created a beautiful business around. But we are going to post all of your information in the show notes. And if anybody wants to connect with you, how would they go about doing that?
They could connect through spiritcoachtraining.com, and there's plenty of ways to connect up, and lots of free content and materials. And the free course that I was speaking of is spiritcoachtraining.com/free, and you can just hop on there and download the MP3.
Wonderful.
So I welcome you to do that and experiment, because it is our experiences that really transform us.
Well, I know you've given everybody some amazing tools to continue dreaming, planning, and living their best life. And on behalf of the One Life community, we love and thank you for everything you're doing. And I will, in theme with what we've been talking about, end our conversation with Namaste.
Namaste, Matt. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, just want to drop you a quick note here. We have our upcoming conference in Pennsylvania, May 21st and 22nd. Space is limited though, so be sure to head over to onelifefullylived.org and register today. Can't wait to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't already, please be sure to join our Facebook page at the One Life Community, or you can check us out at onelifefullylived.org. There'll be information about upcoming events, podcast guests, and some great tools and resources for you guys on there that you will not want to miss out on. Now go out, make the best of your day, and live your life fully lived.
Don't you take a day for granted. Gotta live life fully every day. Someday you'll be gone. What will you have done?